So we come to another album that has been recommended to me from my fans, and I am so glad whenever I hear this. I always love being introduced to new bands, and I was so glad to be introduced to this one. Let's dive into it. From Silence to Somewhere by Wobbler. Wobbler is a Norwegian symphonic progressive rock band. They follow very heavily in the vein and trail that Engelard had kind of carved out in the mid 90s, and that Anekdoten had continued on. That kind of dark, rich playing styles using very interesting and elaborate time signatures, using traditional musical instruments and blending it very much with that dark and sinister sounds. The thing that sets Wobbler apart from, say, Engelard or Anekdoten isn't just that they're on the other side of the alphabet, but also that they're a little bit more optimistic. They're not quite as dripping in darkness and in that minor key. These guys use a lot more of the major chords. They use a lot more of a kind of optimistic tone at times, and what I really enjoy is a longer playing style and stretching out in the music. The album itself, From Silence to Somewhere, is structured very similarly and almost right on the nose as like a 70s prog album, where the first half of music is just a full-on 20-minute epic single piece, and then the second half are divided into two songs from there. And now we do have kind of a straggler instrumental break between the two, which gives us a little bit of like a mini interlude. What we find within the title track of From the Silence to Somewhere is just a musical journey. It does have a little bit of that ebb and flow within the first half of it. It does have like a lot of that building up of atmosphere to a very big and heavy-hitting plateau. Very much of what we've come to expect within this type of an epic. The one thing that I will say is that I feel like there's a lot of stopping and starting up again. Like the use of silence within this track is very heavy, and they use it in a very interesting way. Like it's unlike, say, how Rush was using it within some of their suites like 2112 and Hemispheres, where it almost felt like it was a number of different songs that just didn't get separated. Even though there's a little bit of that here, it's not quite as permeated. Like it's feeling a lot more of, say, like The Invisible Man from Marillion, where that silence is needed to really emphasize the pieces that came before and the pieces that are about to occur. Let's talk about some of the playing styles on here. The jam sessions is really where the band shines. Near that midpoint, once we get into that flute section and the band is really playing it out, I get enveloped within that playing style, and I soak it in, and I love it, and I'm along for the ride. And like a very good epic, I love that climax that we have in and around the 17-minute mark. And it's interesting that the climax is at the 17-minute mark of this 20-minute song, with about 2 or 3 minutes still left to just kind of but that climax just makes me just gush with joy. Like, it's built up from that jam session that we had before. It kind of slows down and then it comes right back up, and it just provides that really celebration of music that then kind of just gets that fresh air that we have, and it bleeds very well within Rendered in Shades of Green, which is just a purely instrumental track, and I feel like it's just that interlude that we need between those songs. And I feel like the third track of the Fermented Hours is the weaker of the tracks on here. Not saying that it's a bad one, it just kind of goes to show how great the other three tracks are. And it's interesting that the first half is so heavily emphasizing the synthesizers, the organs, and the keyboards, because that playing style near that first half of those keyboards is very well met, but it doesn't really blend too much with the guitars. Like, the guitars add the padding and let the keyboards play on top. And then the second half of the song, it's the opposite, where the keyboards are the padding and the guitars play on top, where I feel like within the other two I almost want to say the other 2 tracks, but within the other tracks, it's the melding of the essences there. And I will admit, I do enjoy the ending of this track. I love the fact that it really ushers us home and it brings the whole thing together. But it's within Foxlight, the final track on this album, that I feel it really starts to pick up steam again. Like, it really takes its time, and it has such an optimistic playing style within that flute. Like, I love that very airy, almost folky side of things. Like, I can just picture being on like a riverbank with this flute carrying us through, being the Wobblers that they are. Right from that very beautiful essence, we get hit with a just cascade of sound, and it's not a dark hit, it's just a hit. It's a oomph of sound. But really my favorite part of this album is found within that final track of Foxlight, within that final like 10:40 mark. We've come from just a stretch of pure brilliance. It starts off very somber and melodic with just that very heavenly flute work. Feels very much like being on like the riverside and having that very optimistic and celebratory flute. It's not like a big bombastic thing. It's just kind of a reflective thing. And then we are hit with music and it just brings us through the rapids. But once we get to that play style of that 10-minute and 40-second mark, it feels like the essence from Fido, and it's been years. I gushed when I heard that kind of playing style that reminded me of like Snow Torch or Number 7, and I'm just like, yes, yes, yes. So overall, I was very surprised about this album. I can understand why people think it's a masterpiece. I'm not quite there yet. I do see some of the flaws about this. There's a lot of stop and go within the main title track here. I feel like the Fermented Hours needs a little bit more polish work. Foxlight was just a fantastic treat. Don't have any issues with that. So my overall take off of this album is that it's a fantastic time. You definitely need to check it out if you're into this type of prog. You gotta find this on physical format. This is one that I love, and it's a great time from start to finish. Like, it is a solid 46 minutes of music with very little downtime and very little low points. So that's it from me. What did you guys think of From Silence to Somewhere from Wobblers, however you want to pronounce that? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Whatever you thought, let me know by commenting down below. Thank you guys so much for watching. You guys are definitely the best. And until next time, notes out.